I'll tell you a story today. There was a link between the story and the place which is our destination now. The place are Philae temples, and the story is Osiris and Isis. A long time ago, the god Osiris came to Egypt to rule as a king. He brought the Egyptian people new laws and taught them how to farm well and live peacefully in their villages. Osiris was a very wise and powerful king and was loved and respected by the Egyptian people. Unfortunately, his brother Seth was very jealous of his brother's power in Egypt and began to form a plan to kill Osiris and take over his throne. Late one night, Seth tiptoed into Osiris's bedroom, careful to not wake up Osiris or his queen, the goddess Isis. Seth measured Osiris's body from top to bottom and from side to side. The next morning, Seth took the measurements to the carpenter, who made a beautiful wooden chest decorated with bright paint and sheets of gold. That night, Seth threw a huge party and invited Osiris as a guest of honor. The night was spent feasting, singing, dancing, and playing games. For the final game, Seth brought out the huge wooden chest. He announced that the first person to fit perfectly into the chest would be allowed to keep it. One by one, each of Seth's friends climbed into the chest. Unsurprisingly, no one was able to fit into the chest, which was made perfectly for Osiris. Finally, Seth and his friends convinced Osiris to try his luck with the chest. Osiris stepped into the chest and lay down. The chest fit him perfectly, just as Seth had planned. Just as Osiris lay down, Seth slammed the lid and sealed the shut. Seth and his friends took the chest down to the Nile River and dumped it in, knowing that Osiris would never be able to survive. When Isis heard the news of her husband's death, she was extremely upset. She rushed to the river bank and after several days of searching, found the wooden chest. Isis opened it and removed the dead body of her beloved Osiris. Crying, Isis hid Osiris's body in the river grass. She didn't want Seth to find Osiris's corpse before she could perform the proper ritual that would allow him to pass into the afterlife. Late the night, Seth returned to the Nile to make sure Osiris's body had washed away. The chest was nowhere to be found, but after searching the river bank grass, he found the body of his late brother. Furious, Seth cut Osiris's body into 14 pieces to make sure that the body was never found again. He hurled the pieces all over Egypt. The next morning, Isis returned to the river with her sister Nephthys and her friends to perform the necessary ritual. With the help of Nephthys, Los, and Anubis, Isis performed a great act of magic. Very carefully, they began to sew Osiris's body back together, only to find Osiris's body gone. Isis transformed into a huge bird and flew high over Egypt. Using her sharp vision, she was able to find all the pieces of the body to put Osiris back together. On the night of the full moon, Isis used powerful magic to bring her husband back to life. Osiris impressed Isis and thanked her sister and her friends. He told them he was not able to stay in the world of the living. He explained that having died, he needed to travel to the world of the dead, where he would become the king of the afterlife. Before he left, Osiris told Isis not to worry. He told her that she would soon give birth to a son, Horus, who would defeat Seth and become a great protector of Egyptian people. By taking back the throne from Seth, Horus would restore order and peace to the universe. When Horus was born, he was hidden away and kept safe from his evil uncle Seth. When he became of age, Horus finally confronted Seth, and they violently fought. During the fight, Horus' left eye was poked out, but magically came to life. Later on, the Wedget, or Eye of Horus, became a powerful symbol to promote healing. Although Horus emerged victorious, there was still a large question of who legally had power to the throne. Seth believed that as Osiris' brother, he was the rightful ruler, but Horus argued that he should be proclaimed king. Since he was Osiris' legitimate heir, ultimately it was decided that Horus would rule on heirs as a king. Seth was banished forever. This was the end of our story. let's throw into the temples of Philae. To the extent that one of the famous stories from 1001 Nights took place on the island and was consisting on the love story of the brave Anas el-Wugud and his beloved the Princess Ward. The tale recounts that the Princess Ward had been imprisoned by her father the Sultan in one of the towers of the abandoned castle in the middle of the Nile in the land of crocodiles. Then Anas, the enamored, risks extreme danger and reaches her by crossing the water on the back of crocodiles after beseeching their sympathy. It is very likely that this part of the story is inspired by the famous iconography of the temple shows Osiris in mummified human being from laying on the back of crocodile. At the end of the story, the two lovers are reunited and Anas returns her to her land and married her with the consent of her father, the king. The various elements that make up the temple complex at Philae date to the various eras of Egypt's history, from the pharaohs to the Caesars. The oldest remains are the kiosk of Nektab the First, 380 to 362 BC. The ruins mostly date back to the Ptolemy era, specifically to the reign of Ptolemy Philadelphus II, Ptolemy Epiphanes V, and Philometor VI, with many ruins signed by Roman emperors. This is Nilometer from this era. Beyond the entrance into the principal court of the temple lies a complex chapel called Mamizi. Called Mamizi by Egyptologists after the terminology of Champollion, the French philologist who described the ancient Egyptian languages. The place is covered with sculpture representing the birth of the pharaohs under the figure of the god Horus, son of Isis. These are French letters date back to the French campaign in Egypt, which wrote by French soldiers. These letters may represent the names of soldiers. These letters are in the first pylon of the temple. That is the second pylon in front of us. Encased in the right-hand side of the second pylon, there is an interesting huge block of granite called donation stelae. South of the Great Temple, there is a charming kiosk called Kiosk of Emperor Hadrian, 117 AD, well known with its very large quay from where you can have a splendid view overlooking the rocks remaining from the primary location of the island. Next to the kiosk, there is a small temple dedicated to Hathor, goddess of love and beauty, and where we can see one of the most famous representations of God Peace, god of joy and music playing on his harp. See you in another tours. My regards, Ahmed Al Qadi.